Appreciate Brother Larry. It seemed like it was just a few years ago he was praying about open doors to serve the Lord and not knowing, what God had for him. And then he started doing old-fashioned tent revivals. He was always involved with the tent work. I think he said like 12 tent revivals this year. Here,
At least, yeah.
at least 12 in this country. He's got scheduled already. And then now the door opened up for him to go to Peru and do tent meetings and revivals in Peru, and we're excited about that. And he just got back, and I'm excited about hearing a little bit about it, having him preach today. He'll be back tonight. I'm having him preach tonight, too, in the evening service at 6:15. All right? Amen. Let's give him a good round of applause. 4:15 today?
Yes, sir. Soul winning at 4:15.
4:15 today, if you want to be out with us and do some soul winning evangelism right here in the city of Frederick. Be right out front here with Kirk at 4:15 today. All right.
You have your mic on?
Yes,
Okay.
I have my mic on.
Good.
All right, well, buenos dias. It's time.
Yeah, you do.
One thing I learned while I was there is that if you don't know what they're saying in Spanish, you just nod your head and say, "Sí."
Get that vision going.
Yeah, you never know what you end up with from that, but I was thinking Miss Peachy's song. We could have just on the message of that song, we could have headed on home right now. Yeah, it was good. Well, let's see. So I'm not well organized. I'm just going to try to kind of wing this. If I was going somewhere to a church somewhere, I had to be all professional. But I figured at home, I can relax a little bit. It's like sitting on the couch, and we're going to have this little. I'm going to show you some pictures. Let me just say, while I'm getting started, you can just stop me anytime you want to and ask questions. I remember things if you ask me a question, because there's so many things that took place over the few months, and not just that. There was actually 10 days that I was in Peru with Brother Jeffco, and so that was a whole thing in itself. And so feel free to ask me questions. There's just so many things that go on. I won't remember everything unless you ask me something. I also want to say, I'm not so much trying to preach today, but really what I would like to do, if I could accomplish anything today, if I could encourage you to be involved in. We say missions, but I don't mean just missions as far as, getting on a plane and going somewhere. I mean, going to the next door neighbor. That's missions too. It's all included. So if you are inspired, that's what it should do for us. Make us have a desire to go out and do something, and just go out and turn the world upside down for God. And we are desperately in need of that. Another thing I wanted to mention was I was overwhelmed. I was overwhelmed at how interested people were in this. I just thought that just something we're going to go down here and do this, but everybody got so interested in it and asking me questions about it. And if I could, it kind of overwhelmed me that people were so fascinated by that and so interested in it. And it causes you to have a certain amount of accountability, if I could say it that way. Because people are interested in watching you. And you know what? That doesn't just count for going. See, I said I wasn't going to preach, and I already stopped. So that same thing applies not just to what I do going somewhere, but it applies to you too, because it affects you and how people see you and how you're represented in the world and in your Christianity. All those things. All that stuff is important. So So like I said, I'm not going to preach today. So let's see here. So we took let me see, there was some other great wise thing I wanted to say. You have to write these things down or just, so I wanted to share this thought with you all too. You know, sometimes in life, and I think about this in my life, sometimes I get to this place where I try to figure out how in the world did I ever get here? And I thought about that when I was in Peru. How did I ever get there? You know, it was funny. The young man there that said that he knew where Peru was and told what continent it was on. You know what? 6 months ago, I couldn't have done that. I didn't know that. I mean, I heard of it, but it was just like, you know, it's just some far off place. So 6 months ago, I had 6 months ago I had no intentions of ever leaving the country. I had no intentions of that, and I didn't really know about Peru. I didn't have like missionaries come here and they tell you about this dreams that they had their whole life that they want to go to this country. I hardly even knew that Peru even existed, and I was not thinking about it. I was not praying for Peru. But God wanted something done there. Whether it be for a short time or a long time, God wanted to do something. And so He opens up a door for me to do that. And like I'm saying, you know, I'm not trying to, I'm just trying to, out of all this, I'm trying to encourage you that you could do something for God too. And whether it be for an hour, or rather it be for a month. God wants to use you. And so Brother Jeffco was here in the fall, and so I went to breakfast with him, and the purpose of going to breakfast with him was because I was trying to learn Spanish, and Joseph was getting ahead of me, so I thought, you know, if I could get with some people that knew Spanish, maybe they could help me along. That was the whole point of it. It had nothing to do with going to Peru. I did not go to him wanting to know, oh, can you take me to Peru? No, I didn't even hardly even knew that he was even going to Peru. And so I started talking to him about this, and the first thing he starts talking about is, oh man, that's great. You need to take your tent down to Peru. You need to go down there and you can preach. I'm going in 2 weeks. You know, pack your bags. Let's go. And I said, well, wait a minute. No, we're not doing all that. What do you mean go to Peru? I had to get on my phone and look up on my MapQuest to see where Peru even was. And that wasn't my intention. And at first I thought the whole idea was crazy. But after a few days I thought about it. You know, I thought about what he was saying, and I thought, you know what? Why not take a chance? And that's what I would try to encourage you. Take a chance on God. If God opens up a door, gives you an opportunity to do something, take a chance. Take a risk. You know, I've done a lot of crazy things in my life, and Cheryl's going right along with me. So you know, it's just as much her fault as it is my fault. And but along the way, I'm telling you, along the way, God always has blessed when you take a chance. When you take a risk on Him, He will never let you down. I mean, I've never had that happen. You know, it's always been a disappointment to me when I get nervous and I back away. God can't bless that. But if you just step out and take a chance, and it can be from the smallest thing. See, I told you I was going to preach, but look what you did to me. It can be the smallest thing. You see the guy walking across the parking lot, you run over and just hand him a tract. Just something as simple as that. God will use that and bless that. He will encourage you out of that. And then, you know, maybe he'll have something different for you, or something bigger, or something, whatever. But I'm just saying, take a chance. Take a chance on God. Take a risk. So we went out So I agreed to go with Brother Jeffcoat for 10 days to Peru. And I probably, I wasn't thinking about ever going back. I was just thinking, that 10 days, that was cool. And, but they offered to help me with the Spanish. So I agreed. They wanted me to stay for like 6 months. Or even longer. But I said, well, you know what, I have meetings all summer. I can come down for a couple of months. So they, not Jeffco, but the people down there persuaded me to stay with them for a couple of months. That's how all this. The whole point of the two and a half months over the whole purpose of that was so that I would work on the language. That was my whole purpose. That's what I wanted. I wasn't going down there to go. I was going to preach a couple places, but the whole point was I was going to go down to work on the language. And when I got there, I hardly worked on the language at all. I think they have 5 textbooks like this to work through. This textbook has 30 chapters in just this one. We made it through 10 chapters through the 2.5 months. So we hardly worked on it at all. But I was nonstop going. We were all over Peru. I was 3 times we traveled to a place to preach that took over 20 hours to get there. It was just insane. And it was like as soon as you got that done, you got back, and they had something going on the next week. I wasn't working on Spanish at all. I was working on that. Now, so you would think, I would have been disappointed with that, but I was preaching everywhere. I can't even tell you how many times I preached. At least 20 times or 25 times. I don't know. And but see, I had a plan in my mind, but God wanted something else done. He needed something else. He wanted some gringo down there to go down and preach to that people. And it was intense. It was nonstop, but it was great. I have right now. I already have meetings booked for November and December. And I wasn't even planning on going back. And I've already got meetings booked to go down there. And then in March of next year, we're supposed to do a big tent meeting down there and start a church to have a tent meeting down there. Some of the people from up here are going to fly down there and going to help try to build. All this stuff is just fell into place. And we didn't. And I didn't know. I didn't have all these things planned out. I didn't have. God just opened up the door, and I said, take a chance, take a risk. So if anything, so we'll take a look at some of these pictures. But if, like I say, if you want to ask me, feel free to ask me any questions as we go along, and I'll try to remember some of the stories and some of the things that happened along the way. Okay, so this building right here, this was the first week I was there with Brother Jeffco. We met this pastor who has a church about 2 hours from here, and somebody donated this building to the church. So he wants to start a church out of this building. Okay, so now there was another guy who I don't know if you know about the conferences that we had in Trenton. We've got 2 tent meetings coming up here to start churches out of, one in Atlantic City, one on Long Island in New York. All this stuff's taking place this summer. Those same people are supposed to come down and get with this preacher and send those guys out. You can't see it obviously, but there's a community, there's thousands of houses all over this place. And they would have come down there and go all over this place, witness to people, and then start a church in this little church building. And so we're talking about doing that in the spring. It's not quite like you would think of in America, but you know what? It's the same God.
Yeah.
Okay, keep going. And like I say, just stop me whenever you feel. This was Brother Jeff Coates there. This was when the first time I came. And so we had dinner. Of course, you know, that's kind of the highlight of traveling is eating. And one thing I want to share with you. Okay, this the fellow on the left in the black shirt. He was pastor of the church that Brother Jeffcoat and I we both preached in. And so he took us out to dinner or lunch or something. And when you go there, you don't, you know, like you go to any restaurant around, they give everybody a menu. You go to Cracker Barrel, they give you, everybody picks out what they want. When we get down, we sit down and I'm starting to think, what am I going to eat? What am I going to eat? And you know it's going to be something crazy. And so you sit down and you're looking for the menu. Well, the preacher's already ordered what you're going to eat. You had no choice. He ordered, and it's like, I don't know, it's some kind of a family style thing, and he orders, you know, chicken and French fries and, you know, salad and stuff like that. And that's a custom there. Like you see the pictures of drink, you don't get your own drink, you get a picture of drink. And so it just, they're much more family oriented, they're much more connected that way. Okay? Okay, this actually happens later on, but the people we were just with, this is the college kids that were in his church. And so they were fascinated, everywhere you go, they were fascinated with the fact that I could speak English. There was all the young people there, they all want to speak English. So if you came and you could speak English, man, they would just flock around me and just ask me thousands of questions about English and America. They're fascinated wanting to come to America. And so anyway, so that night I was preaching to the college kids. I can't remember what happened. I think I preached to the church first, and then when I got done there, they took me back into this little room with the college kids, and the college kids, I gave them a little 10-minute message, and then they just kept asking me questions after questions. And they're very excited. Okay, this is the Spanish instructor. He is addicted to taking pictures. He probably took, if I took 200 pictures, he probably took 2,000 pictures. He takes pictures constantly, everywhere and everything. So this is what we were doing. And you can see there, I got the little textbook that's right there in front of me, and we're kind of working on the language a little bit. That was one of the classes. When last fall, when we set all this up, the plan was for 4 hours every day, from 8 o'clock to 12 o'clock, every day I would work on Spanish. And it would be Monday to Friday, and then I was supposed to go out to the marketplace for 2 or 3 hours and practice. Okay, that never happened the whole time I was there. We never had a class for 4 hours. We did have some classes a couple hours, and near the end we got a little more intense, but we never really worked it. But I traveled with him to a lot of places. We traveled to Peru. That was a 20-hour drive up there. And he was holding a conference. He didn't even know who I was. I just walked in there, got to know him a little bit, and he took me up to that conference, and I preached 3 times at that conference. And he didn't know who I was, but and I got to know a lot of the preachers from Peoria. I got to meet all them guys because he preached me while I was up there, and and we really connected with him and with the preachers there. And so they just want you to come back and do other things, and they're excited, like the idea of having the tent. They're excited about that. Okay. And that's just another picture. That's a more intense picture. Let's see. This is another guy. This is kind of more when I first got there the second time. I think, I can't even remember now. Yeah, this is the second. Okay, this guy right here, the kind of the bald-looking guy there. Yeah, right here. That's Nash Descent. Do you ever met him, Nash Descent? Okay, he's more hangs around with the Michigan meeting, but now he's in Peru. Anyway, so if you could look out to the left, there's a sign on the window. Yeah, right there. Okay, that preacher bought that lot, and this guy who's holding the drawings is designing a church to build on that lot. And that guy is wanting to build it. And so the plan is that they're working on putting, they're starting to build that this summer. And so he took us to this city, which is called Tarapoto, and the Tarapoto is what you would call jungle. This is the jungle where we are at right now. And so he's going to build a church building out in the jungle to try to have a place where all these young preacher boys can come, they can hang out there, they can learn, they can study, and then they can go from there and go out, and then they can start churches and do other things. So that's what they got planned. So here they are out in the middle of the jungle, out in the middle of nowhere, and they're going to build a church, and they're going to start a church right there. Or build it's a church, but it's also a thing to help to train preacher boys. These other guys that are there, they're guys that come out of the States who just kind of came down there. The preacher tours. They come down to kind of see what's going on. Okay, so, and of course it's in Lima where we are staying, it never rains, and in the jungle it never stops raining. And so there we are hanging around out there, staying out there in the rain talking about this building, which you kind of can't see it, but it's off to the left there where the lot is. And so that guy right there, he's explained what his plan is, that they're going to build a building there in Tarapoto. And there's another picture of the same thing, and off to the right there's where the lot is. And that guy there in the light blue shirt, that's John Barnes. And I can't remember the names of those other guys. The other guy's a preacher, and I forgot what the other guy did. So anyway, okay, we'll keep going. Okay, so we went to, from that place right there, that was Tarapoto, we drove 10 hours to get to this place right here. That was in the jungle. This is way out in the jungle. And so we drove out here, and we're going to preach, and that's John Barnes on the left, and I don't remember that preacher's name, but that preacher was from Rhode Island, and he came down and spent, and so all these guys are going to get together and try to work this out to start this church over in the first picture we looked at. Okay.
Yummy.
You never know what's going to come. See, that's the problem in Peru, is they pick your food for you. You never know what's going to come. And you can't just say, no, I'm not eating that and push it away. You kind of have to eat it to be
Hospitable.
Yeah, hospitable and act like you have some sense. But it actually, believe it or not, all that stuff was really good. I mean, there were some things that were tough, but
Did you eat the head?
no, I think you just scraped the fish off the cover. Okay, so here's another church. This was probably more towards the middle where I was at. I went down and helped some guys. This church was putting a sign up outside, and so I went down and was helping them hang the sign. And while I'm there, I'm talking to the pastor of this church, and the pastor of this church finds out that I'm a gringo from Estados Unidos, and so he says, "Oh, can you come preach for me?" Because that's got the little hook. And so I said, "Yeah, sure." So I came and preached for him. I think this is kind of maybe this is the invitation, I guess. And there's part of the same thing. And so in that last picture in this picture too, you can see I really was there. And that young guy was there to the left. He's interpreting. Now that's another picture of the teenagers I was teaching at the other church. And the other young guy, he was well, the other young guy back in the picture before, he was, see off to the left, he was interpreting there. That was the son to the preacher who was helping me with the Spanish. And that was actually probably when I was in Peru. And we was getting pretty tired pretty quick. And this guy found out that I had a driver's license. And,
For Peru?
well, I do have a driver's license in Peru. But so I went with him up to Peoria, which was just a 20-hour trip. And on the way up there, they him and the other guy that were driving, they got so tired that they stopped driving. Then he found out that I had a driver's license, so he made me drive. So I drove like another 6 hours and up to get up to Peoria. And then so here, this is like a little van truck that they went around and they do just like we would do here. They donated. I don't know what they were giving out that night, but bread or these little vegetable things. And so we would go around and we would meet people and talk to people and witness to people and give them some of the food that was donated to the church. And so that was it. Now this is one of the times I was preaching. I don't know if I've ever preached this here, but that Revelation chapter 4, when the Lord is sitting on his throne, high and lifted up. That's what the message was. So he's holding the throne, so everybody gets a picture of what's going on. And then that young guy back there behind him, he's interpreting in Spanish, and the girl on the other side, she's doing sign language. She's interpreting in sign language. And we prayed for him. Anybody have any questions? Yes, sir.
I'm just wondering, are most of the people there Catholic or all different denominations?
There is Catholicism is very big there, but they just don't. Catholicism just doesn't have the influence that they would think that they have or would like to have. You can walk around and talk to people, but you don't run into very few people that are going to argue with you that they're Catholic. And I mean, there are people like that, but it's not. They just don't have the influence, and the Catholicism just don't have the influence that you would think it would. Yes, sir.
Did you have any limitations from cartel or any
No,
kind?
nothing.
Nothing?
And here, we are way out in the jungle here.
Is that the Amazon?
I don't think that's the Amazon. I think you have to go farther. Yeah, I think you have to go farther west of that. But, so this was a group of preachers that came, and so we came down to this. There's a little town up the street, and then we came down here and we parked. And you see that little canoe right there? They took that canoe and they ferried us across the river. The church was on the other side of the river. The whole bunch of us, the whole bunch of us, they spent probably an hour, ferrying us all across. And then when church was over that afternoon, they ferried us all back over. Okay. Yes.
What fish were in the river?
What kind of fish?
I don't know. I didn't see any of the fish. The water was actually really murky and muddy. Matter of fact, you can see from the picture it was really muddy that day. But it's a fresh water, so it's freshwater fish like trout and things like that probably. And maybe some piranha. I don't know. So here we're. The river is kind of behind us, and up there, that building you can see there to the left, that building is their makeshift church. Yeah, just that was a little girl. She had some problems, and she just kept running around hugging everybody. And she was just so excited and not just her, but a lot of them, they're so excited about having visitors come, especially visitors from the United States come. And so they were very excited, and so we had a good time. That was that's the church there.
Do they have electricity inside?
They do have some electricity, but it's not much. Okay, let me tell you this, and I'll get you a question. Okay, it's another thing that fascinates me. You can go out into the jungle. There's nothing anywhere. They're barely making it, but they all have a sound system. I cannot figure that out. I'm not kidding. This church right here has a sound system. They had to hook me up and put me on a mic. I mean, we're out in the jungle. Who needs all that? But every church you go to, the first thing that before they bought a building, they bought a sound system. Anyway, yes, sir.
When you're out in villages like that, is there active employment? Are these subsistence farmers, or what do they do for industry?
Mostly what they do is, most of the people there are self-employed. They all have like little markets, or they, I don't know if you have a picture of one of these, but they have these little moto things, and
Oh, yes, we
the moto is a taxi.
do. Yes.
And so you get it, so they tax you, I mean, there's thousands of them things around. So there's all kinds of little things like that, little stores, and you can go, where I was staying, I walked up 2 blocks, there was a market. There had to be 200 to 300 little vendors in that market. And then wherever you go, anywhere in the city of Lima, and not just Lima, I mean, it's the same pattern in other cities too. They would have a little place where, like a little store or something. It would, like if they had a three-story apartment building, the bottom floor would be just a little unit, almost like a little garage, like a little one-car garage. And you could go in there, and they would sell sodas and food. Some would be a little restaurant. You didn't go to a restaurant that had 100 seats. Their restaurants would have 3 or 4 seats. So it's things like that. They were all independent things and independent businesses that they did. And so out here, they kind of did the same thing. A big thing out there was, what do they call that? What do they call those things? You know, those things they put in the carpet roll. It's a tree.
The tubes?
Yeah, it's a tree.
Okay.
It's a kind of tree that they use. And bamboo.
Yes.
Bamboo is like crazy out there. If you go into Lima is desert. Nothing grows in Lima. So anything they get that's wood products, they would go to the jungle, cut down bamboo, and they would bring bamboo and sell it so anyway, so I don't know how I got on all that, but they would do all kinds of things to just rustle up money, make money, and you know they're not making money like you make money. They really struggle to make anything. But they're I mean that's just their system. They're used to it. They just know how it works. That's how they survive. This was another church that I was in, and this church actually has a tent. And so we were going there, and we were kind of schmoozing with this pastor, thinking that he would let us use his tent whenever we wanted. That did not work out. So anyway, but we did get to be friends with him, and he's got a tent meeting coming up in November, and so I'm going to be getting involved with his tent meeting. But he would not just. What we wanted was we just wanted him just to let us use his tent for some of our own meetings, but they wouldn't go for it. Coconuts. I mean, coconuts everywhere down there. And you tell them you want a coconut, they just take a big knife and they whack the top of it off so it got that little hole, you put straw in it, and you know what, I don't like coconut, but it was really good. Yeah, all that kind of stuff, that stuff was really, really good.
I'm in the kitchen now.
You do not go there and they give you like a little bowl of something. I don't know if we have a picture. Okay, like the picture of the fish. Okay, they'll give you a bowl of soup that big, before your meal comes. And you're just, I mean, you're so full by the time you get done the soup, you can't even eat the meal.
Siesta.
And they look at you like you're crazy because they eat the whole thing.
Wow.
This was the facility where I was actually staying, and this is a garage, and they have a church in the garage, and they have like another little church building, and so this was, I don't remember what was going on with this morning. The guy to the right with the in the black shirt, he's interpreting for sign language. Yes, that guy. He's interpreting sign language, and then in this particular picture, they weren't interpreting Spanish or English. They were just doing Spanish. So, okay. Any other questions so far? Okay. Now this is just. I just wanted to try to give you an example of the way the place was. This was a house that's in Lima, and this is a very typical house. Everywhere you go, the house is just like this. The houses have no insulation in them, and they have no heat, no air conditioning in them. You can see right here, they don't even have no windows. The top floor is all open. There's nothing there. Now, it's very expensive to wash your clothes and do those things, so they hang them up. They just hang their clothes up. Yeah, so they just use like we used to do back in the olden days. They do the same thing there. This was when I was in Lima. A bunch of the young guys from Peru that I drove 20 hours to go to the conference, they came down to this conference, and so we were all kind of hanging out together. Okay, I was talking about the vendors and the things that they do on the street. Here's all of them. Here's what goes on the market. I mean, there's vendors like this one right there. They're everywhere you go. Just everywhere.
This guy selling roads?
Probably, maybe. I mean, anything you can buy in the grocery store, you can buy on the street. That's the back end of one of those little moto things. I'm just trying to show you how busy it is and how heavy the traffic is constantly. There was, in the city of Lima, there's 11 million people. It's one of the most populated cities in the country. Okay, our pictures aren't in order. When I went across the river, here's one of the pictures of us, and then hiking us across the river so we can go over to that church. This is, there was kind of a valley, and this is how they built houses. They built them houses up that valley.
Is this a tower?
Yes. Oh, and they had, everybody has cell phones. I mean, they're like, just like here. Everybody has a cell phone. Yeah, that's just showing you some of the traffic. There's one of those, that's a big traffic circle. But those are the little motos. And you can, no matter where you are in Lima, you can walk out your front door and raise your hand and there'll be a moto right there for you. I mean, they're everywhere you go. They're there by the thousands. This is one of the markets. And it's just vendor after vendor after vendor after vendor on up the street. There's
Is that $1 or what is their conversion?
That's probably a soles, which is less than $1. That was another church that I was at. This church had a conference, and I preached at that conference. This is the same conference. It's inside. This was actually in the morning. This was a Sunday school class that they had in the morning. So the people who I came up with from Lima to Peoria, they were going back. Well, they had this really clunky old vehicle, and it was rough to ride. 20 hours packed in this little thing with this family. So this preacher said, well, why don't you just stay here in Peoria, preach for me over the weekend, and then you can fly back next week. And I said, oh yeah, that's a great idea. And so that's what I did. This was the pastor's Sunday school class, and they were just starting to get ready. But so I preached a couple times for the college kids and the high school kids, and then I preached Sunday morning and Sunday school, and can't remember what else I did there. But so I was very busy there, and that was where this church is. Okay, the conference in Peoria, somebody donated them a whole container of Bibles.
Oh, wow.
And so they brought these Bibles into this little church building, and they were divvying them all up, and that was all part of that conference. They were divvying up these Bibles, and so we got involved with that, and we just took a couple pictures of that. I don't know if there's any more, but okay, this is a good picture here. Okay, so they came to Peoria, a lot of these preachers, for the conference, and at the end of the conference, they were given a bunch of boxes of Bibles that came out of that container. So here they are in this little moto that they rented, and they got the moto packed full of Bibles. You know, it's just a really little motorcycle. But I mean, I don't know, I guess you had to be there, but it's just fascinating. But they're going to sit there driving this moto for another 5 or 6 hours out to farther out into the jungle so that they can take those Bibles back to their church. And that's what that meant to them. Then Bibles, you don't appreciate having a Bible when you can't have one at all.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, somebody comes along and gives you several cases of them, and you can take them back, and everybody in your church can have one. I mean, it was, you can't just go down to the bookstore and buy a Bible there. And so it was a great thing for them that they were just overwhelmed by that. And so that's why throwing these Bibles in the back of a moto and paying all the money it was going to take to get that back home, it was worth it. And that's a picture of, yeah, and you can't, actually they're on both sides. There was quite a bit of Bibles there. When we were in Peoria at one of the conferences, in the morning we would have preaching messages, in the evening we would have preaching, and in the afternoon we would go out on the street and hand out tracts and witness. And so this is the waiting room to the emergency room at the hospital. And we just go in there and we just handed out tracts and witnessing to people, talking to people. I mean, you can just tell, you can look at them, most of them are sick, and so we got a chance to get to it. That guy there, he was one of the guys that was with me, and he was doing a little street preaching there to the ones there in the back. This is what Cheryl is very excited about. She's looking forward to seeing that. This is how they sell meat.
Oh, wow.
They kill the chickens, they bleed them out, and then they just hang them up on racks. And you just come along and say, hey, I want that chicken, or I want that chicken. And that they'll hang there like that, I don't know how long, days.
Wow.
And people don't think anything of it.
And that's cut up there.
Oh yeah, and it's not just chicken, it's all kinds of meat. It's just that there's chickens by the thousands there.
Okay.
This was earlier when I was with Jeffco, and we were
Eating.
yeah. This was the same situation. We showed up there, and we sat down, and food's already been ordered. Sometimes they order it before you even get there to the restaurant. They tell you what you want. Am I answering all the questions? Anybody else have any questions?
What do you think the majority of the people go to church there? Is a lot of the people go, half people?
Oh, no, I wouldn't say half the people. I would say, I mean, maybe 10%.
Okay.
And I would say it's probably a stretch to say that.
So how's the government towards Christianity? They fine with it?
Yes, they're very receptive to Christianity.
Okay.
Yeah, they're very receptive to it. Matter of fact, when you come in and you tell them, when you come in, you're going through customs, you tell them you're going to work with the church. That's what how you tell them.
Okay.
Not like other countries, you can't tell them that. But there, it's no problem at all. They're receptive to it. They even they encourage churches to start schools and teach the kids in the church schools. They're receptive to that. Now, part of the problem is that they have been indoctrinated by a lot of the junk that America teaches their kids, and so they have been hurt by that, and so they teach some of this woke junk, and the hopefully what's going to happen is because Trump is so against it and he's starting to weed out a lot of that junk, that hopefully they'll catch on to that too. But it's but they have a big problem with it down there. That a lot of the perversion and things like that we have to deal with here, they have the same thing there.
So do the kids go to regular school like here?
They have public school, yes, but there's, I mean, most of what I was around was the Christian schools, church schools, and they do homeschooling and things like that there too.
Okay.
Anybody? Yes, sir.
Is there widespread internet there, or is it spotty?
It does get spotty from time to time, but internet is there, especially where I was in Lima. I mean, Lima's a city, and so there's internet everywhere there. So, like I say, internet, telephone, everybody has it everywhere. Yeah, so it's very popular. This was Peru made this deal with China to open up a harbor. Okay, well, this is about an hour from there. We drove past that and drove up to this. This is a development that this church, the church where I was staying, they bought this, it's actually a piece of mountain ground, and they built that church building right there. They built that to have a church in this area. They got another little place down at the bottom of the hill, and they meet there, but they're building this building, and they're going to have a church here in this building. That building there to the left, that's the bathroom, and the blue building is the church building. And you can't see it from here, but if you look off to the left, you're looking down over the ocean. You're way up high, you're about halfway up a mountain, and you're looking down over the ocean right there. Really gorgeous views. This is, we're just trying to show some of their work that they do. This is how they do work. This is exactly how they do work. It is everywhere you go. And so they'll just come along, and if something needs work done, they'll just come out there with a truck and a ladder, and they climb up the ladder, work on the pole, and cut wires. And if it just hangs, it hangs. And there'll be wire that'll be hanging down in the cars, as if you run into it, they'll just drag across the cars all day long. And they wouldn't even think about fixing it. I don't know, I didn't touch it. But some of it's electric, but a lot of it is
Communication.
yeah, communication, cable TV, and things like that. This is similar to the other picture that we looked at, same meeting. This is the church that we went across the river in the jungle and preached there. Yeah, I think that is probably me preaching there. So we're preaching there, and there's the church had the language Aum.
Yep, that's you.
Okay, so I would preach. The guy on the right, he would interpret in Spanish, and then the guy on the left, he only knew Spanish and Aum. So he would interpret from his Spanish to our own for the rest of the people.
Wow.
And so you would preach, interpret, people receive it, and then you continue on. That's how you had to preach there.
Yay.
Okay. This is, and if, when Jeffco comes around again, you ask him about this. This is a guinea pig, and it's a, what do you call that? It's a delicacy in Peru. It is called cuy. And so, Jeffco, when he found out about that, he had to make sure that I ate some of that.
What's it taste like? Chicken?
It does taste like chicken, but it's kind of fatty like.
Okay.
This wasn't as good. I had it somewhere else that was even better than this place, but it's not as bad as you think. Okay, that was, are we back in the
Yeah, we're
beginning?
begins. That's it.
Okay, so that's the church. Now, I have hundreds of pictures, but we just tried to pull out. We knew that you probably didn't want to stay till 3 or 4 o'clock this afternoon looking at these pictures. But, so we just tried to give you a handful to give you an idea of what it was like and what the area was like. So does anybody have any more questions? Yes, sir.
Oh, when you gave the gospel, did they have anything like, other questions that they come to you about, or like any other concept?
Well, most everybody there spoke Spanish. The people who spoke English were the people who were already involved in the church. So the people that I could speak to easily, it was, most of those people were church people anyway. But so the people, to try to witness the people, it helped to know Spanish. And we did see some people get saved. We were out on the street a lot when we were in Peru, so we did see some people get saved. Most of the time, if I could get started with somebody, I would pull somebody else aside and say, here, talk to this person or talk to that person. And so that was kind of how it worked out for me, because I didn't know enough Spanish. If they started asking, you could start quoting them a couple verses, or you could pull out your Spanish Bible and you could read them a couple verses. But when they start asking you questions, then you just that's when you give them that dumb look and you just say, uh-huh. But no, we saw people say, matter of fact, when we was in the jungle at the church that we went across the river, okay, I preached last, and I can't remember what it was I preached there that day, but we went to lunch, and when we went to lunch after that, a preacher, he was one pastor in the church somewhere. He comes up there and starts talking to us. And so the preacher who was the host, who lives there, he starts asking this guy about his salvation and things like that. He didn't really understand what salvation even was. And so he leads this pastor to the Lord while we're sitting there eating lunch. Well, it creates a stir. I can't remember how many, there was probably 20 preachers there. It creates a stir amongst all the preachers about this guy getting saved, and he's supposed to be a pastor. So we go out, so we kind of finish up there, and we go out there. There's another building there that they're going to build, a church building, and they were showing us all this thing. And so we're standing there talking about it, and somebody, and the host pastor, who knew all these people, he mentions that. He talks about this guy getting saved over lunch and that he was a pastor. And he begins to get kind of emphatic about the fact that you got to know the right thing. You can't just be wishy-washy. And that's exactly right. It is for you too. How are you going to go out there and witness to somebody? You got to know. You got to be sure you're saved first. Okay, so this guy's a pastor, and he's there. So the preacher begins to get very emphatic about it and starts teaching the people and going over salvation, exactly what it is. And at that time, we were all just standing there. We weren't in church. We were just standing there inside this foundation that had no building on it, and we're just standing there talking about this. And 7 people got saved right then. from that preacher getting saved. And some of the people were preachers. I didn't know who was who, but some were pastors. So I think 2 or 3 pastors got saved, and then some other people got saved. So I don't even remember what your question was, but it was a good story.
So do you think some of the reasons these guys weren't saved, or they just didn't know the knowledge of it, or they were out in the jungle preaching and doing the best they can?
Yeah, I mean, look at the opportunities you have. You have internet. You can go in and you can get on Amazon and you can order 100 Bibles if you want. You can get anything you want to. You can call Pastor Fry and you can harass him about any question you want to harass him about.
Right.
You have all kinds of opportunities to talk to people, to learn about Christianity. But they don't have that. They're out in the jungle. There's nothing around. There's nobody else to talk to. They're pastoring a church, and they might not even talk to another preacher for a year. So it's not like they don't have the opportunities that you have. So they do the best they can. They try to read the Bible and try to study. Well, they're working off of a Spanish Bible, and there's even problems in the Spanish Bible, but they're working with what they've got. And so that's how they just do the best they can. They try to learn the best they can, and then that's the very reason it's important for us to go there and spend some time with them. Not just go in there to preach to them, but there to sit in fellowship with them, and talk to them, and discuss some of these things. And they are receptive. That's why it's exciting to go there. You know, you go out here, Frederick, and they want to beat your brains in because you want to bang on the door and try to tell them about the Lord, but they're not that way there. They're excited about hearing it. And you get around other preachers, they want to hear it, and they're not trying to straighten you out. They are hungry and wanting to learn. It's exciting to go there and go out in these places like this, out in the middle of nowhere. And it's incredible. You're out in the middle of this nowhere place, and here they are. They're building a church, and the community evolves around that church.
So now you know why God sent you there, huh?
I think so.
Amen. Amen.
But it was very exciting. Anybody else have questions? What time do you normally start? 2:30? What time do you? About 12, so I'm a little past. It is about 5 after 12.
You're right on time.
Meditation.
Well, let me just share with you. You got time? Okay, because I can go to lunch too. I just wanted to share with you this one thought. It won't take me more than 45 minutes. Turn over to Numbers chapter 11. The whole point, to me, the whole point of this is not, it was exciting and all that stuff, but what's more important here today and right now is that you get that feel, get that calling. God is wanting to use you. Maybe he doesn't want you to fly to Peru, but maybe he does. I don't know. But he certainly wants you to do something. I mean, there's people he wants you to witness to. He wants you to be an example for the next door neighbor. He wants you to show them Christianity. Okay, so I just had this little example here this morning. Now, you remember these people, did I say where we're going? Numbers chapter 11? Did I say that?
Yep.
Numbers chapter 11. Okay, remember, everybody in the Bible, these are real people, right? They're not Martians or something out from Mars or something like that. No, they're real people. They're just like you, just like me. They go through all the same things. They think the same way. It might be a different time and a place, but God is the same, and God worked with them just like He's willing to work with you right now today. In Numbers chapter 11, verse 1, he says, and when the people complained, it displeased the Lord, and the Lord heard it, and his anger was kindled. What's happening is the Lord is out in the wilderness, or they built Moses is traveling through the wilderness, heading to the promised land. They built the tabernacle. They got the camp all around the tabernacle, and there's millions of people gathered around the tabernacle that's set up in the wilderness. And you can go on, and I'm not going to read all these things, but you can actually sit there and read this whole chapter. It talks about this thing that's taking place. And it says in verse 11, Moses said unto the Lord, wherefore hast thou, Moses is upset because of all this turmoil that's going on. He said, why hast thou afflicted thy servant, and wherefore have I not found favor in thy sight, that thou layest the burden of all this people upon me? So he's upset about all these things. He's upset about what's taking place. And he's wanting to, he can't handle it. It's overwhelming him. So in verse 10, you see Moses just doing the best he can, and there's many people, and there's much division. And so in verse 11, Moses complains to the Lord. In verse 14, the people are just too much. He says, I am not able to bear all this people alone because it is too heavy for me. So he's upset about all this stuff and all these people and all these things that are going on. Verse 16, and the Lord said unto Moses, gather unto me 70 men of the elders of Israel, whom thou knowest to be elders of the people and officers over them. Okay, so God says to Moses, go look out amongst the people, and you pick out 70 men, and you pull those men. And it wasn't men that he wasn't saying men that God had given him a list and said, take these guys. No, there was men whom Moses looked upon and trusted and had confidence in. He was going to use them. Okay, but look, those 70 men, there was millions of people there. Just because he picked out 70 men did not mean God did not want to use other people. And that would be the way it is here today. God might choose somebody to do a certain thing, but that doesn't mean he doesn't have something for you to do, or something else for you to do, or something else going on. God has something for everybody in the church to do, and something for everybody to get involved with. Okay, now let me show you where he goes with this. So here we are. We got these 70. They're all, the 70 are like the Tennessee Temple people. They're the smart Bible studiers. But look, he goes down to verse 26 and he says, but there remained 2 of the men in the camp. The name of the one was Eldad, and the name of the other Medad. And the Spirit rested upon them, and they were of them that were written, but went not out unto the tabernacle, and they prophesied in the camp. There was a couple guys that were out there in the camp that God began to use, and they weren't even in the clique with all the other. They were just out there, some schmoes out there trying to live for God, trying to do the right thing, and trying to go in the right direction, trying to have an effect on their next door neighbor and effect in their community. And God said, I'm going to use them 2 guys too, right there too. Hey, wherever you are, God can use you. And God wants to use you. We can't keep going along and having excuses and saying, that stuff is just for the pastor. That's just for the Bible students, the Bible college students and all. No, it's not. That's not the way it is. It's not that way. It's for everybody. God wants to use you. Let's see what else he goes on. He says, and there ran a young man and told Moses and said, Eldad and Medad do prophesy in the camp. And Joshua the son of Nun, the servant of Moses, one of his young men, answered and says, my Lord Moses forbid them. And sometimes that's the way it is. And sometimes that's the way it feels like when you're just the schmo in the church and trying to do the best you can. It feels like, the other people, the leaders are kind of up here, and here we are just down here. But you know what? God wants to use you. That all that stuff doesn't mean anything. That stuff, a lot of times, that's just in our own mind and the way we see things. But God wants to use you. You have to be willing that when He wants to open up a door to use you, you just got to be ready to say yes no matter what it is. You know, like when He comes to me and says to go to Peru, my first thought is, you got to be crazy. But the more you think about it, you may, hey, God gives you an opportunity to do something. And it seemed like it was too much when I was talking to Jeff Code about this. But you know, when you get there and you get to spend time with the people and you get to experience things and you see how the people love God and it just draws you to them. You know, but that's the same way it is with your next door neighbor. You know, you get walking with God and you get close to God and you show them God. Hey, it'll be exciting. And it'll move you, it'll affect you. You have to let your love for God move you and stir you and affect you in your life. Sometimes we have to stop making excuses. We got to take chances. You just got to take a risk on God. You don't know what the outcome is going to be. You don't know how it's going to work out. But let God's love for you be your motivation, the thing that drives you and pushes you, and it affects you to the point that no matter what happens, you'll take a chance on God. And like I said at the very beginning, you know, I've done some crazy, dumb things, but every time we take a chance on God, God always comes through. Always comes through. I'm going to turn it over to Pastor Ron.